All right, welcome back. Another episode, Ground and Pound Podcast, episode number 36. Right now, it's just Hunter and I. Sam should be jumping on any second now. Hunter, how are you doing?
I'm good. Another week, a lot of big news, so I'm excited.
Yeah, so we're going to introduce a new little segment that I came up with. It's going to be called Cash or Dash. Basically, we'll do this a little bit later on, but it's going to be cash as in, yeah, this idea should be a go. Dash means the UFC or whatever promotion it is should just run away from it as fast as possible. Granted, these are some crazy headlines that we'll do later on. I would imagine that like 10% of the ones that we do for the future of the show are probably going to actually be true. But let's start with Bellator 273. Bader taking home the heavyweight title, undisputed now. Benson Henderson put his name back into title conversation. I honestly, let's start with the Benson Henderson fight. I honestly feel like he didn't think he was going to win that.
And the fight was dead even. I honestly could have went either way. I think he did win 2 rounds. So
I think so too.
The fact that with the layoff he looked that good though was shocking. I did not think, because he was a plus, like the other guy was a minus 500. So
I think he was planning on that being just a retirement fight. Because as soon as like they started interviewing after, he looked like he was so unprepared for any of that. Like he was like, I don't know. I guess I got to fight. Like I think he knew what he had to say at the beginning, like all through fight week. And then as soon as he actually got the win, he was kind of like, like now what do I do?
And now he's saying he wants to re-sign with them. He's hoping to, and he wants to end up fighting for the belt again. So I think that win reignited a fire in the dude.
Also, another big name, Dalton Rasta. He looked like a stud. I don't know if you got to like kind of look at his little story at all. But Dwayne, not The Rock Johnson, I guess was saying like he was like DMing his sister, like insulting him all through fight week, which is why Dalton during this fight was being like a cocky little shit. As soon as he started beating up on him. Like crazy thing. Like who is like
some of these guys have weird ass tactics to get in people's head. I mean,
dude, this is Bellator prelims. Like, what are you doing?
That's weird. But in the main event in this upcoming UFC fight card, we have a guy that just has some out of pocket shit before his fight too. So
we have the 2 biggest psychopaths possibly in the UFC fighting on the main event. Yep. But yeah, no, anything else? Shout out to our boy Ben Parrish. Not your night, but that Sullivan Cully kid looked like a stud, from what I was able to see. I kind of dismissed him, didn't think he was legit. I was proven wrong. Honestly, really cool guy in the post-fight interview as well. So shout out to Sullivan Cully, but bigger shout out to Ben Parrish. He'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back. He'll be fine. Ryan Bader won me some money. I didn't trust in him at all. I thought he was going to lose the fight for sure. But I was a little bit down bad, so I, threw a quick little cash on the guy, and I ended up winning. So
I think it was a little call you made. You're like, yeah. I'm confident. I was like, I think you could do it.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I had no idea who was going to win that fight. It was pretty much, in my mind, it was even. I just liked that fact that Bader was the underdog in Vegas.
Yeah.
So, anything else really? Bellator 273.
Nothing from Bellator. One. Probably not a big headline, but I don't agree with Daniel Cormier in a lot of things. And I think it was earlier today, he said that he's still disputing the fact that Israel Adesanya is the middleweight GOAT because Anderson Silva is in a realm with Muhammad Ali. He was saying that. In MMA terms, he absolutely is. There will never be another middleweight GOAT. It is Anderson Silva.
Yeah, agreed. Other event that happened this weekend, I don't think you watched it at all. Eagle FC.
Nope, I'm not going to give them any viewership.
So, Cejudo didn't turn off the cringe. Chael Sonnen sounded like a drunk maniac. I forget who the other like color commentators are. They look brutal. Jen Sturger, though, being the type that's supposed to be Megan O'Leary, she did a good job. I'll give it to her, but she also has experience doing AEW. She was with the Jets for a while, so she's in a very experienced, she is an experienced personality on TV. Plus being a comedian. So
how was did they have ring girls? I was gonna ask that.
No ring girls.
God damn it, Khabib.
Also, no women's divisions in Eagle FC. But the stars did come out. I know Joanna was there, Kamaru was there. Pretty much anyone who was signed by Ali. Blonde Brunson was there. And then like every single fighter that fought was also signed to Ali.
Let's take a minute and ask, how much money is Ali making? Because that dude represents everybody now.
Yeah, I mean, everyone who's good, it seems to be Ali. So I know at one point they had to have Kamaru Usman kind of just step behind the desk and start doing commentary. And he ended up doing it from like the fourth fight all the way to the finish. Usman was the only one with a brain, it seemed, because Cejudo was just so cringy the entire time. I think they're going to have to address that.
That's tough.
Also, shout out us, because I was listening to a lot of podcasts this week trying to find like any type of Bellator news, and outside of like us, Helwani, Morning Combat, there really isn't much like Bellator news. Like everyone seems to just only focus on UFC. So shout out us for having an expanded portfolio.
The UFC is obviously the premier organization you want to be in, but there's so many good fighters in Bellator. Even Eagle FC won championships. If there's any decent headlines we're going to talk about, we're always going to address it. And Bellator has a lot of good events coming up. We will be addressing all of them.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Bellator will be here. Ground and Pound Podcast, Winners Only Club. Stay tuned.
Also, depending on what you're listening to, you might see a change in the name slightly. It's going to go from Ground and Pound Podcast to Ground and Pound MMA and Combat Podcast. Only reason I did that was because I realized when you search on Spotify and some of these other ones, MMA, it doesn't do it by category. So it wasn't showing ours. So I just decided to kind of add that into the title. The logo's not going to change. Nothing's going to change on that port. You're just going to see a little bit longer of a name. News before we get into UFC Fight Night. I don't think there really was much.
Not a ton. Clown news. Jake Paul's still doing his thing.
Yeah.
Said he wants to fight Canelo at cruiser. He said he could beat Khabib in MMA because he can't strike with him. So
he would just need to learn how to wrestle, which is pretty much the biggest part of Khabib's game.
He's the biggest idiot ever because Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor all piece up. Jake Paul, he's a clown. That's all.
Yeah. Let's do UFC Fight Night, and then we'll go into Cash or Bash. On this fight card, anything before we get to the main event that you really want to highlight? I know I have a couple.
Honestly, I can skip right to the main card. One of my favorite fighters since probably was it 7 years ago when he was on the Ultimate Fighter, Julian Erosa, kicking off the main card. He just bangs every time, man. That dude. You're looking for a fun fight, Julian Erosa, to kick off the main card. It's a lot of fun fights, I think, but that's fight of the night for sure.
So the fight that I want to mention also on main card, and then talking about the Ultimate Fighter, we get Bryan Battle versus Tresean Gore, which was supposed to have been the finale of this previous season before Tresean Gore ended up having to remove himself due to injury. Both are obviously, as you see, in the UFC, so that didn't really get affected. Bryan Battle ends up winning the Ultimate Fighter this last season, but this is kind of like a fight to see who is the real winner.
Yeah, and I love Tresean Gore, man. He's fun to watch. He could, if he builds a good, fan base, he's gonna be a household name in the UFC. He's got a lot of talent, so I'm excited for that fight.
He is the favorite, which I thought was a little odd, just because he has been out for so long. I forget what the injury was. Was it an ankle?
He injured it a few weeks. Yeah, it was a leg injury for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, sure, yeah, he's been training, but I wouldn't have thought that it would have been him being favorited, even though Bryan Battle has stayed pretty active since the show.
All that does is show how good or how high the UFC is on Gore.
Yeah. Let me see if there's any other fights that I really want to talk about before we get into this crazy main event. We were supposed to get Phil Hawes versus Sam Alvey. Phil Hawes had to withdraw himself due to injury, so we do get Brendan Allen.
Phil Hawes has been friend of a lot. He had both fights with Deron Winn taken off. Then he gets knocked out, and then he gets another 2 fights scheduled. They both now, go away. I feel real bad for the guy. Sam Alvey, speaking of him, he's been training obviously with Strickland. So I feel like we're going to see one of the best versions of Sam Alvey against Brendan Allen.
I actually take it the other way. I think Brendan Allen's going to piece him up.
I think Brendan Allen will win the fight for sure, but I think Sam Alvey's going to bring it like always.
I do think that he had a better chance against Phil Hawes. Because we did see Chris Curtis end up upsetting Phil Hawes most recently. But going into the main event, Sean Strickland, certified crazy man, versus Jack Hermansson, former training partner with Khamzat Chimaev, also crazy. Who do you like in this fight? Like, what do you think is going to be like happen? I feel like this is the most unpredictable combo there's ever been.
It's a toss-up fight, but I'm gonna go with Strickland. He's on a roll. Strickland's on a roll. His CT is getting worse, which means he's just getting more crazy, which plays into his hand when he fights. Jack Hermansson's a dog, but Sean Strickland is an absolute different breed of human.
Just listen to any Sean Strickland interview. Half of it will be about jerking off, rape, shooting people, or fighting people in the parking lots.
Yeah.
Like it makes zero sense. There's no way this man is not a criminal on loose.
If he wasn't in the UFC or fighting, like he said, he'd probably be locked up somewhere. So this is where he belongs.
And like he seems to just fight because he loves it. Like I don't think he's worried about the money. As for Jack Hermansson, he believes with a good performance, he will be next in line and jump over Blond Brunson and Cannonier for the next title shot in the division. I think that's a long shot. I think that the winner of this fight is going to be in a much better position. However, I don't think that they're going to be fighting for a title anytime soon.
I mean, I think both these guys are 2 wins away. They win. Whoever wins this fight is a win away after that. That's gonna set you up with the number 1 contender shot.
Yeah.
So, but that also depends on how the Whitaker fight goes with Adesanya. If Whitaker wins, we obviously are gonna have another year till the next champ because they're gonna have a trilogy. So, but this is huge because a winner of this fight is basically sitting for that number 1 contender.
If Adesanya wins, I would almost imagine that loser of Brunson versus Cannonier fights the winner of this fight to then hopefully get a title shot. There's also Kelvin Gastelum, who's a possibility. If Khamzat decides to fight at 185, that would be a possibility. There's also the shot that Usman and Izzy fight because that's apparently what Ali wants.
I don't see it happening, but I want that too. And if I'm Usman, the quickest way to avoid Khamzat is to go up and have a way better stylistic matchup against Izzy.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about on this card?
No, but I do have a Twitter now. I think I said it last time. So I'm actually going to start putting the UFC picks, most likely just UFC. I'm going to stay from Bellator and that kind of stuff, but I'll be posting those on my Twitter, WOC Hunts.
Perfect. Now let's do this cash or dash. Now cash obviously means this is a great idea. UFC should cash in on it. Dash means let's run away. Number 1, Conor McGregor headlines International Fight Week card with a tune-up fight against UFC long-timer Frankie Edgar.
Cash, baby, of course. Get Conor, get Frankie his payday, and sell fucking tickets.
Yeah, you really reward Frankie Edgar for just being such a big part of UFC history that sometimes does get forgotten about. You get Conor McGregor in there with someone that he should beat, let's be honest. But Frankie Edgar could shock you, but I doubt it. But I actually really like this idea. I think that it makes a lot of sense. It's 2 fan favorites, one way bigger than the other, but it gets
at the time, Frankie Edgar was the lightweight champ at one point. He can fight at 55.
Definitely. So. I like the idea a lot. Plus, with it being International Fight Week, it's going to be a card that's going to be loaded. So why not give the fans this fight?
Yeah.
We have seen the last of Paulo Costa. You think that's true or false?
Dash, no. I think Costa's going to need money. He's gonna fight it. That's gonna be what it comes down to. I don't think he's the same Costa we used to see. Izzy, I think, did a lot to him. So, but no, Dash, fuck that. We're gonna see Costa at least 3 or 4 more times.
I think so too. There's rumor that he might never fight again. I doubt it. I just don't also see him being good with his money. Let's be honest.
Exactly. He's got to support those, drinking habits, all that wine he likes to drink.
And the last one that I have for this week, Brock Lesnar still has fights on his UFC contract if he decides to fulfill them. Would a fight with him and John Jones fighting this year to introduce Jones to the heavyweight division make any sense?
You start that one.
I say dash. I don't think anyone wants to see John Jones beat up on an old Brock Lesnar. John Jones deserves a lot better talent than this current form of Brock Lesnar. He deserves a Stipe or a Ciryl Gane or a Curtis Blades or a Nagano. There's no way that you give him Brock Lesnar.
No, the fight's not even that exciting. But it'd be different if it was this. If they gave Brock Lesnar a chance, Francis Ngannou. Because now you have 2 Goliaths.
Yeah.
Fighting, and honestly, stylistically, that's his fight. Brock would maybe his best shot. Against Jones, no way. You can't wrestle him. You can't do anything with him. But Francis, different story. But yeah, no, dash on the John Jones, Brock Lesnar talk.
Yeah, so that's all I had. Because this was the first one, it's going to be short. However, I'll probably say that all of us should bring in like 2 every week. And we'll start adding more segments so we can kind of get this show a little bit more organized throughout the year.
We're going to,
But I mean,
consistently too, and like have specific segments for each one. So
yeah. So that's our episode for today. I feel like there was not a lot of news really. It's just kind of crazy headlines that didn't make sense.
No.
Any fight announcements? Oh, actually, big news. UFC 274 was pushed out of Brazil.
Yep.
And UFC 273 is no longer going to be in Brooklyn. It's going to be moving to Jacksonville at the ViStar Arena.
Oh, we're going.
Definitely. Florida, for sure.
Jacksonville, come on. I got a buddy out there too. Shout out Brandon Guy.
Perfect. That's all we need. But yeah, I feel like not a lot of fights came together this week.
No, not a ton, but I believe next week. Next week's my birthday, next Thursday, by the way. But next Saturday, great card. We have UFC 271. So that is going to be a great podcast, great show. We're going to have a lot of different cool segments for that. Pick'ems, locks, like cool little things for that. So
yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. The top 3 fights on that card, I'm so in love with.
And Derek Lewis calling out Tuivasa saying he doesn't like the shoey. Come on. That just want him winning more.
Perfect. I think that's everything. So shorter episode. We'll have probably an interview in between this one and the next episode. So we'll see you guys and hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday.